Oh my gosh. What a joy. What a joy to witness the evolution of this woman's message and her work. I am so excited to welcome to the stage our next speaker, who is definitely going to really open your heart here with what she has to share. Jen Koch, Burying Self Expression. Everybody, let's give her a huge round of applause.
Yay,
Woo!
Jen!
Jen, go Jen.
Oh. Imagine I'm coming over to your house right now and I open a drawer. What would be the drawer that you would be mortified for what I would find in there? Maybe it's this really chaotic, messy junk drawer. I bet it's your kinky sex drawer too. Or maybe it's a drawer filled with old memories that you don't want me to know about. And the truth is, it's not actually about the item that I find. It's actually about what that item represents, and that it's some part of you that you feel needs to be hidden because you feel shame about it. For a long time, I built my business called Stylegasm as a fashion stylist. And I have a knack, not always intentionally, but for finding people's shame drawers. I would say a very common shame drawer is women's bodies changed. And women have closets and dressers and storage units filled with clothes that don't fit anymore after they have children, after menopause, or sometimes even an illness or a disability. I've come across love letters, at times love letters of a marriage that has very little expressed love in it, or sometimes even an ex partner's love letters when they're married to somebody else. I've come across a few funny shame drawers too. I had a client that had, I swear to you, the world's ugliest shoes. I fell into an absolute hysteria of laughter and called them quackamadoodles. I insisted that she get rid of the three pairs that she had. It was a Japanese orthotic shoe company, and they got out of business because she was really the only customer, I promise you. Um, but then there was also shame drawers that were so painful to witness. I I had a shame drawer with a client who it became a close friend actually, and I had found her vibrator, which was that unheard of for me to find. But she said to me, I had a lover a few years ago, and he reminded me that I'm not dead inside. And I still regret that I didn't have the courage to ask more questions to her. And then I had a client who actually sold her body, and have sworn that to secrecy, and I have watched her life completely fall apart. But you will not believe what was actually in my shame drawer. So I got my period when I was 12. However, my older sister and my mom were very late bloomers. So they weren't expecting me to be getting my period. And given the stigma that I grew up in, that I think we're really steeped in, to be honest, for a lot of women of the shame with our bodies, I felt it was too shameful to ask for pads and tampons and the supplies that I needed. So I actually lived through period poverty. And I lived through this period called beg, borrow, and steal, and very often not have enough supplies. And a lot of times I had to stack tissues, make do with not enough supplies, and it was a very stressful situation because I was a competitive swimmer and I was in the water for 6 days of the week. But somehow I survived this hell for 4 years. But the worst part of it, and where my shame drawer comes in, is we had three dogs and I had an open trash can in the bathroom, and I knew I couldn't just leave my trash in there because they would make a mess of it. So for 4 years, I stuffed my used pads and tampons into my top of my dresser drawer, this drawer right here. And I hated that I was doing this. I've always been a very neat person. I love good smelling things. But like trauma, the more that it built up, the more that I felt the need to cover it up. But my liberation came the day that I got my car key and got my driver's license. And the very first place that I went, sunny afternoon, in Virginia right before school started. Told my parents I was going to go buy magnets, but I had been plotting it for years. Went and I bought the tampons that I needed. And then soon after, I came home from school one day and there was an unusual quiet in the air. No one was home. And I went and I took a trash bag and I went and filled all that trash, which had collected in the drawer. And I went to the dump and I threw that garbage bag into the dump and I felt this weight lift off me. Just instant relief. And I thought I was done with the drawer, but I was not done with the drawer. I didn't tell anyone what happened for over 15 years. And I went on to create metaphorical shame drawer after shame drawer in my life. I experienced many different examples of sexual abuse. I was saving my virginity and ended up being raped when I was 25 by someone that I trusted, who I thought was going to be the love of my life. I struggled with money again and again. I got into debt. I had a lot of failure in relationships. And maybe like many of you, I have been on the personal development journey. Let me tell you. I mean, I've lived in Bali, y'all. You know. Um, I I've done I love all the things and I still do all the things in some capacity. But there was one thing that was the key. You remember the key from the story? The key? Now, there are many things that help, don't get me wrong. The therapy, the personal, the all the different things of personal development, energy work, things changing the brain, somatic work, absolutely do these things help. But the key was actually looking at my ancestry and seeing that this pattern started well beyond me. So this is the story of my ancestry and how my family both survived and arrived in America and carried on both the energy of perseverance, but the hiddenness of shame. So my family actually it is hypothesized from the tribe of Aaron, the brother of Moses, were known as the priestly caste, and they were kicked out of Israel. And some hundreds of years later, in the mid 1800s, my family were living in what is now modern day Lithuania. It was my great great grandmother and her two daughters. And they were very much on the wrong side of history as a Jewish family. And they were about to be taken away to be slaves. And before they were sent away, they went into their backyard and they buried their belongings, including their sewing machine. And then they were shackled, they were sent away. It's told where they were sent away all the way to Siberia to go and work the salt mines. And they lived through horrific ordeals, but they all managed to survive and they were released. And when they were released, they went home and they dug up that sewing machine and they traveled all the way across Europe, ready to board a boat in Belgium. They were nearly shot at immigration because they only had two passports, but they were able to bribe and get on. And by an unbelievable stroke of luck, if it was one day different, that boat would have been turned back to Europe and they would have never made it to America. But they went on, in a lot of ways, on the outside to live the American dream. Started a grocery store. The two sisters married two brothers. And the sewing machine there in the distance, there to mend things. And eventually they had a great great granddaughter who worked in fashion. Oh my. And yet there was always this like hidden energy in my family. So one of those women that was shackled at the salt mine, her daughter died at age 30. This is my grandmother, died at age 30 of stomach cancer, pelvic region. And then my mom, her firstborn were two twins that she went into premature labor and they died at birth. And there's this lineage of really strong women, but who grieve so deeply on their own. So just recently, the end of last year, on the winter solstice and the very last day of Hanukkah, I got to see the sewing machine for the very first time. I've actually only known about the sewing machine story for maybe 5 years. And I went to see the sewing machine, and we also went to the graveyard of all those ancestors that had come over from overseas. And then I came home that night, and I just journaled and reflected. There's this great exercise that I learned just from a teacher of mine, Melanie Ann Lair, about because of that, because of that, because of that, and looking at from hundreds and hundreds of years, all the way back from being kicked out of Israel, that seed of shame. And I just had this knowing in my body that I get to choose a new story. And that sewing machine, the model, I kid you not, the model is called the Phoenix. And now I get to be that Phoenix rising in my family. Now, I don't want you to hear this story and just think like, oh, man, Jen has a great story and I don't know the lineage of my family. Bullshit. Every woman has a story, and all of you to be here have a fucking powerful lineage. And you are here because you are that woman in your lineage who is breaking this lineage of shame. What if that shame drawer that you have actually holds the place of your power? What if it's the key to unlock that self-expression and for those dreams and those desires that have always been a little bit out of reach to finally manifest? Maybe your work, you love your work, but it's not your full embodiment. That was me. I love style, but I've realized I don't want to be a slave for rich people's shopping. I want to be a rich person myself. We're working on that. What if you have stuffed down that desire for finding the love of your life and and that fairy tale romance truly exists? That journey took me right here to write this book, Radiant. So why are you still single? And what if you have an alter ego? Because we all do. Some alter ego that is like kinky and weird or wild, and how expressing the side of yourself that you've always been told not to express is actually the thing that pushes you to become who you were always meant to become, and that we're all full of duality. You, my dear, are no longer shackled. It's time to dump that shame drawer, but also to adorn it with flowers. For your shame drawer is your greatest teacher, and you are the Phoenix. Thank you.
Oh, Jen.
Yay! Ay, ay, ay. Woohoo!
Yay!
Oh my
So
gosh.
good.
Well done.
Thank
That
you.
was wonderful. That was wonderful. I
Super
want to
good.
open up for celebration. What did you love? What moved you? What stood out for you? You can just unmute yourself, lean in, and celebrate.
Jen, I loved everything about this. I just want to share with you. You are so great when you speak at adding like parenthesis, like if I were reading a sentence. And that's like really where you shine because it makes me feel so much a part of and so connected. And I absolutely loved when you said that you're a part of a lineage of very strong women who grieve so deeply on their own. That to me was like, it just took so much of what you've been moving through that I've gotten the privilege of watching you move through and put it into words. And so this wrapped up with such a beautiful bow. I'm so proud of you. You should be so proud of yourself. And thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Ah, beautiful celebration. Who else?
So, Jen, I remember Casey telling you, don't worry about the ending. The ending will figure itself out. And I absolutely loved your ending today. You know, the notion of the shame drawer being your greatest strength and you being the phoenix. It was just such a great way to end. So, yay.
Thank you so much.
Oh, beautiful celebration. One more.
Jen, I really loved your lead in where you started right out the gate with the shame drawer and sort of started with it more like light and simple, and then you kind of got into the deeper drawers that are, where there's more shame buried, and then you got into the personal examples of people that you've worked with which really was a testament to like the work that you do. And then you got into your own experience. And it just was a beautiful, like, drew me in. And then I felt like I landed in you and in your story. And just the way that wove itself through the whole way through your talk was beautiful. And you just do a beautiful job of bringing your warmth and radiance like right into the camera and just speaking like directly to each of us. So thank you. Beautiful job.
Oh, beautiful reflection. I'm gonna jump in here as well, and feel free also to share in the chat any celebrations, any celebrations. So, oh my gosh, how awesome to see you weave. You know, this has been such a like taking these different pieces of the stories and the themes, and it's just like I feel like this is such a testament to how when you give it a deadline, it forces, it's like the art of creative constraint, you know, and it just brings it together. And it really was so beautiful. I thought it was a wonderful that you ran with the creative choice of like starting with the stories of the shame drawer and then getting into the sewing machine because it did have that tie through of like this lineage of they were seamstresses, you're in fashion, like that end up having like that through line, that golden thread came through. But the way that you ended it was so wonderful, how you took the microcosm of your story and open it up back out to the macrocosm of it being about us, for us, for us. And you did that so beautiful. It was so organic and it came together in such a beautiful way. Your storytelling is wonderful. It is wonderful. We were so there. Like hearing about all the different shame drawers was really entertaining. But then it was entertaining, and then it got really deep when we heard about yours, you know? So it was like this beautiful um, mixture of emotion that we got to really be in as a result of that. So I loved that dynamism of the playfulness and the depth. And I just thought you did a fantastic job. Fantastic job.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I feel like what our work together, like Eve's downstairs in my house, I hardly even prepared much. I've been so relaxed about it. Like,
Well, you have. You've been marinating in this and being in the
yeah,
exploration for
exactly.
months, but it hasn't come from a place of force. It's
Yeah.
come from a place of play
Yeah.
and allowing and trust.
Yeah.
And like then we get to feel your essence in that, which is in full force. It's so beautiful. Well done. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of you. Oh, let's give her another big round of applause, everybody.
Woo!
Gorgeous.
Jen.
Oh, so beautiful.